Most welcome to Historiesbanan, History Reconnaissance. This is balloon warfare in World War II. The amazing story of the British free-flying balloons sent out in large numbers to start forest fires and cause havoc in the German power grid. Almost 100,000 of these were launched and caused considerable damage and confusion. These type of balloon attacks were also used by Japan against USA. That I will cover in an upcoming video, so stay tuned. And please, like, share and subscribe, it means a lot to us. The first part of our story begins in London, England in September 1940. Great Britain and its capital are under attack. On September 7, 1940, 300 German bombers raided London, in the first of 57 consecutive nights of bombing. This bombing campaign, or Blitz as it was called, would continue until May 1941. Prior to this, the German Luftwaffe had attacked the British Fighter Command to gain air superiority as a prelude to invasion. This involved the bombing of English Channel convoys, ports, RAF airfields and supporting industries. Thousands of barrage balloons were employed by Britain throughout the war to help protect cities, ports and other important targets from low-flying Luftwaffe dive bombers and fighters. These large gas balloons were tethered to the ground by steel cables attached to winches and rose to heights of up to 5,000 feet.
We must exercise reasonable prudence and a certain amount of guile in combating the malice of the enemy. It is no part of good sense to proclaim the hour and the dates of our meetings long beforehand. Here we are sitting on the target. This group of well-known prominent buildings and towers between three major railway stations, with the river as a perfect guide by night and day, is the easiest of all targets, and I have very little doubt that they will need extensive repairs before very long. We have seen how unscrupulous and spiteful the enemy is by his daylight attacks on Buckingham Palace, and anyone has only to walk to Smith's Square or St. Thomas's Hospital to see the kind of damage that a single aeroplane can do. We have not got to think only of ourselves in considering the matter. There is a large number of officials and staff attached to the House who have to be in attendance upon us when we are sitting. There is no guarantee that the warning will be given in time. Even our watcher up aloft would very likely give his signal only at the moment when the bombs were already released. The firing of the artillery is no useful warning because it fires so often, and we should be hindered in our business if we attended to that.
In October 1940, the German Luftwaffe focused their bombing raids on British cities at night to reduce their heavy casualties. Coastal towns, airfields and other military targets were attacked during the day. The British barrage balloons played an important role. In addition to making the German aircraft fly higher than planned, those that did fly low had to maneuver to avoid the barrage balloons and their cables, thereby decreasing their accuracy. Those aircrafts that did impact the cables or balloons were often destroyed or heavily damaged. During the Blitz, the period from September 1940 to May 1941, when Luftwaffe attacks centered on London and other large or important cities, 102 aircraft struck barrage balloon cables and either crashed or had to make a forced landing. On the night of September 17, 1940, 3 days before Winston Churchill's speech in Parliament, a raging storm with gale-force wind ripped many of the British barrage balloons away from their moorings. The balloons were carried by the winds over the North Sea toward mainland Europe, dragging their severed cables behind them. During the night and the following days, reports of electrical outages in Denmark, Sweden and Finland began to come in. The balloons' heavy tethering cables had struck high-voltage overhead electric transmission and distribution lines, and the resulting short circuits caused power outages affecting electrified railroads and even whole cities. One balloon strike resulted in an antenna destroyed on the broadcast tower of the Swedish International Radio Service. One report said, "On Wednesday evening the Swedish west coast witnessed a great invasion by foreign barrage balloons. Over the coast of the province of Halland, the barrage balloons came over in such numbers that at times the sky was lit up with sparks when the balloon cables touched electric wires." A report on the damage and confusion reached the British War Cabinet on September 23, 1940. Winston Churchill then requested that the use of free-flying balloons as weapon against Germany should be investigated. He commented, "We may make a virtue of our misfortune." The British Admiralty took up the idea, and the findings were positive. Winds above 16,000 feet tended to blow from east to west, making it difficult for the Germans to retaliate with similar balloons. Trials showed that a thin steel wire, much thinner than that used to tether the static barrage balloons, when drawn in sliding contact across two or more faces of a power line, could cause an arc 15 feet long. German power lines was also found to be more vulnerable than British to such shorts between phases. The go-ahead was given, and in March 1942 the first launches took place. It was called Operation Outward, and almost 100,000 balloons were released from Felixstowe on the English southeast coast and two other locations. About half of the outward balloons carried a wire payload, the other incendiary devices. The releases could only be made when winds were blowing to the east, and Allied bomber units were not outbound or returning to England. At launch, a slow-burning fuse was lit. Its length was calibrated to the estimated time to arrive over German-controlled territory. Then, the balloons attacking the power grid would release a 700 feet long trailing wire and eventually encounter a high-voltage transmission line, initiating a face-to-face short circuit, damaging the line or even a power station. The balloons with incendiary devices were equipped with different devices, all with the purpose of starting fires in the German pine forests. There were three main types: phosphorus bottle grenades, cans with incendiary jelly, or socks packed with wood wool and paraffin wax. British intercepts of Luftwaffe communications soon showed that German fighters were trying to shoot down the British balloons. It cost the Germans more in fuel and wear and tear on aircraft to destroy each balloon than it cost the British to make them. Later, reports were received that revealed extensive damage to German electricity supplies and fires in forests and on farms. In Germany, they were labeled Störballone, or disturbance balloons. In German newspapers, the public was warned to get close to the balloons on the ground and report them immediately to the authorities. The air defenses were advised to only use light and medium anti-aircraft artillery against them, and to avoid sounding air raid warning when engaging them. The most successful event of Operation Outward was a trailing balloon wire that short-circuited a 110 kilowatt power line, making a generator in the Berlin power plant explode, destroying the facility and thus taking away 250 megawatts capacity from the grid for a very long time. There was also a lot of collateral damage when balloons caused damages in occupied territories and neutral countries, something the Germans were very keen to point out. The last balloons in Operation Outward were launched on September 4, 1944. After the war, German records revealed that the trailing wire attacks had caused the Germans considerable inconvenience, with electricity supplies frequently being interrupted and damaging the electrical distribution network. This clip is of a free-flying Japanese balloon sent over the Pacific to start forest fires on the US west coast. It was 4 times the size of the British balloons, and I will get back to them in another video. And to end this story, an image of an Operation Outward balloon retrieved in Stockholm, Sweden. Or do you think it should be called an early cruise missile? Tell me what you think in the comments.
That's all, folks. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.